Hi there, this is your Body, Mind, and Home, and today's topic is computing health. And mainly today we're talking about muscle health, either keeping your muscles healthy or making them healthy again. But it's not going to be about toning or anything like that, not really strengthening, but just the types of things that we tend to do on the computer or with mobile devices that can hurt our muscles or make them less healthy, and how to intersperse a little bit of exercise and stretching and ergonomics into that, so that you can either stay healthy or be healthier over the years. So let's talk about muscle health. Healthy muscles are muscles that move, and the reason that moving is good for muscles is because it brings blood into them. So when you talk about warming up, what you're doing is you're moving muscles in order to get blood into the muscle, and that creates some lubrication. It also brings nutrients into the muscle, and it takes away waste products. So that's why movement is important. But of course, when we're doing computer work, or when we're on our phones, or when we're reading e-devices, we tend to just stay in the same position for sometimes very long periods of time. Now, why is that a problem? So here is muscle fibers. This is an example of muscle fibers. Muscle fibers, move in and out. When you stretch, they pull out. When you move, they move around. Hopefully, this is a healthy muscle. And when you flex, they grab on and become stronger because they're tighter together. So what happens if you're sitting still for a long period of time is that movement isn't happening, so these muscle fibers are not getting very much blood into them. The other thing that happens, especially with computer work, is or any kind of mobile device, is we sit still for very long periods of time, but we're not in a very relaxed position. We're typing, so right now my back is flexing. We're typing a lot, or we're using our device, so this whole area is sort of stuck together. It's being flexed, which means it's pushing the blood out, but then it's not getting blood into it. And if we do that for hours and days and weeks and months of our lives, those muscle fibers get kind of stuck together. So that's the other piece of this, that you will find even a very, very well-developed muscle, which is very large, should never feel like a rock. So it should always have some give, a little bit of give. If you push on a muscle and it feels like bone, and it's not bone, then that's a very unhealthy muscle. And it's not just here. This is one of the places people get it, but it's in here. It's especially back here, especially if you have bad posture, because you're hanging your head over, maybe you're tilting your neck up, and all of these muscles back here and at the top are having to strain to hold your head up, because your head is very heavy. And if it's not being held up by the vertebrae, then it's going to be using a lot of tightening. And if you're sitting like that for long periods of time, on your phone, or here, you end up getting very stuck muscles, and those muscles have no lubrication, and they also can get to the point where they never let go. And that's what the rock hard piece is. There's a flex and release, but when you have those kinds of muscles, they never release. So that's what I'm going to be working with, to try to get you to do some exercises throughout the day, very brief exercises that will really help to keep your muscles healthy. Now for the fun part. This is the flexing and releasing and the stretching. The flexing and releasing is always done before the stretching because that's what warms up the muscle. It's what brings blood into the muscle. For those rock hard places, they're not going to release right away. So what the flexing part of it is going to be just trying to get some of the outer fibers of those rocks to relax a little bit and to start getting moisturized. And slowly over time, they will start to move. The stretching part, you always want to have nice warm muscles, but you're going to have some of these parts of your muscles that are stuck, and you don't want to try to really rip those apart because they're dry, they're stuck, and what you're going to end up doing is overstretching the healthy part of the muscle, and it's not going to have any effect on those stuck parts. So the flexing is the most important part about the stuck parts, and then the stretching is something that you do to just get whatever parts of the muscle that got some lubrication to stretch out a little bit. So when you stretch, you're going to stretch just until it feels good. There should be no pain associated with stretching. It should just feel good. At least the pain might be good pain. If you feel a little bit of good pain, and some of you know what that means, then that's good. But no bad pain. You shouldn't be stretching, too much. So let's do some of the flexing. So the first thing I'm going to do is this. You hear about carpal tunnel, and that being, a lot of people associate that with too much, using the mouse or using the keyboard, and that is part of it. But part of it is also that this area gets stuck and this area gets stuck, and so you're not getting as good circulation down here, and maybe there's some nerve compression here or there. And so the flexing and releasing is going to help that. It's going to help some of those fibers that are stuck to release and help those muscles to get some blood in them. So this is one of them that I do. You can add the shoulders to this if you want, the shoulder and neck. I usually do that separately, but if you are pressed for time, and when you start doing these, it's just going to feel so good. You might not want to stop, but if you're in the middle of work, you might want to just fit these in throughout your day. So the next one I'm going to do is forward. So this is flexing here, but it's stretching out the back. And here it's flexing the back, the upper back, and stretching out here. So I'm not really trying to stretch right now. What I'm focusing on is the flexing. And then I might do a little bit of this, rolling the shoulders, then roll them back. Okay, so now after doing all that, I'm going to start getting some of the flexing, stretching in. So one of the things I'll do for up here is I'll do this, and if you look at my hands, so I go out like this, so I'm focusing here, but then I'm going to bend the hands back to get the stretch all the way to the end. You can also do this and this for the arm, for this part of the arm, this and this. And then another stretch that I do for this area is this one. And it doesn't matter where you start. If you can only do this, or if you can only basically grab your hands together, then do that. Do whatever is the most comfortable and, feels good. Feels like a stretch, but feels good. The other next thing is the neck. So if I want to stretch the neck to the side, this is side flexion. And I do a little bit of forward flexion, but if your head is really heavy, and especially if you have, I mean, your head is heavy, but especially if you have bad posture, this area is going to be really tight, so you don't want to do a lot of stretching or overstretching of your head. So I do a very controlled thing here. I don't do a really deep forward motion. Okay. The next thing I do, there is flexing and stretching again in this one. So when I go to the side, so I'm keeping my shoulders where they are, and I'm just moving my head as far as I can to this side. So there's flexing happening over here and stretching over here. But I do the other side. Okay, so that was just the neck. Now we're going to do the back. So I'm grabbing onto here and I'm putting my arm, hooking my arm here. And this is like the mid back to upper back. And sometimes I get a little pop out of this when I pull here. But I'm trying, when I'm doing this, I'm not relaxing my back and doing it. I'm sitting up straight. I'm flexing my back and doing it. And that will give you a better, a better twist of your spine. What's the next one? Oh yeah, so another stretch is this one, and it sort of looks like I'm stretching this out, which I am, but actually I'm trying to do lateral flexion of my spine. So I'm just letting it drift down a little bit and then drift down a little bit. Now, the lower back. The lower back is always an issue for people that spend a lot of time sitting. So there's not a lot of things you can do in the middle of your day, especially if you're in the office, next time you're in the office. But this one is good. So I'm doing squats, but instead of having a relaxed back for the squat and just working the upper legs, I'm going to be doing it as though I'm trying to sit down. So this might be a little tricky for the office, but when I do this, I'm flexing my low back muscles, and that is really good because they're either taut because I'm leaning forward, or if I'm relaxed and sitting back, they're completely relaxed. And so this is kind of doing some flexing and releasing of the lower back at the same time as doing a little bit with the legs. And then the other thing is, when we're sitting a lot, we are not, our butts are not doing any work at all, and that's not good either. So I do a little bit of butt scrunches, and that activates these muscles all through here. And it feels so good to do these. So I think that's it for the muscle flexing and relaxing. Oh, the other thing you can do after that is do a little bit with your legs. You haven't really done a lot of warm up with them, so I wouldn't go, overboard, but a little bit of a hamstring stretch. So I have my foot out forward and my other leg is bent and back a little bit, and I'm just sticking my butt out to stretch that hamstring. And again, especially people who sit at a desk all day, your hamstrings are just going to be really short and really tight. So you don't want to overdo that. You just want to give whatever warmth that got into those muscles, you want to give it a chance. The other thing I do with so I'm doing quad stretches now, and if you'll look, one thing you can do strengthening your balancing muscles is just put your hand back, your opposite hand back with the foot that you're stretching. And that will do a little bit of extra work on your balancing, which is always good. And also when you're sitting a lot, those balancing muscles don't get a lot of work. Okay, so let's finish up with ergonomics. The concept of ergonomics is to have your environment set up so that it supports good posture and therefore relaxing muscles. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is mainly a desktop situation like this, but I will touch on stand-up desks and standing up while you're working, and also other types of devices that are not used in this kind of context. So let's talk about what is good posture. So good posture starts with the head, and the head is, you want the weight of the head to basically be on the vertebrae here, instead of your muscles here having to hold it up. Then for your arms, you want basically a 90-degree angle here or more. You can have your hands a little bit lower than that. You want basically a 90-degree, more or less a 90-degree angle here for the top of your legs. You want the top of your legs and your knees to basically be, you want your knees to basically be at the same height as your hips. And then you want your feet flat on the floor. So if you have your feet sort of propped onto the bottom of your chair, that will shorten the hamstring muscles. And when, over time, over many, weeks and months and years. And then that makes it a little more uncomfortable to stand up, and it just causes a lot more problems for, actually standing up or laying flat, that kind of a thing. So the first thing I will talk about is the keyboard, having a good keyboard height. So one thing you can do to get a good keyboard height is to get a keyboard tray. In this case, it requires not having a drawer here, and also being able to screw in the screws into the bottom of the desk. Instead of doing that, I chose to just raise my chair. So if you don't have a chair that adjusts, it's really one of the only things you can't work around. So I would really suggest, no matter how much it costs, to get a good chair. And this chair I got at Staples, and it wasn't very expensive. It has a few adjustments. It's not perfect, but it was something I could work with and still have a really good posture. So this puts the keyboard in a good position, but my monitors are a little bit low. So most people's monitors are actually too high, and so they end up having to look up like this. So what you want is the top of the display, the visible part of the display, to be a couple of inches below your eye level. So in this case, since I moved the chair up, I'm going to move these monitors up a little bit, and that puts them at a better angle for here. If you have a stand-up desk, one of those that you can stand up or sit down, those often have kind of a platform at the bottom. So chances are you're going to have to adjust the monitor height when you're standing and when you're sitting. So figure that out if you get one of those desks, and just be aware that every time you sit down, you're going to have to lower the monitor or probably lower it to as low as it will go. And when you're standing, you might have to raise it a little bit. So the other thing is, when I move the chair up, my feet are no longer on the floor. And as I said, putting them on the bottom of the chair is not the best thing. So get some sort of platform or stepping stool or something, even a couple of books, since you're not going to be moving around a lot. Just anything that you can rest your legs on, rest your feet on, so that your legs are not having to tense up to be, adjusting for that. So that's about it for this. Oh yeah, and then there's my chair. So the first thing I have, so this isn't the perfect chair because it doesn't have a tilt forward option on the bottom. So I use something like this because the back of the chair sort of tilts down a little bit, the seat of it. And so this gives me the ability to have that 90-degree angle. And then I have this in the back, which is a seat cushion, but I have this thick part at the top. And that way I can sit and rest my back, even though I'm in good position, good ergonomic position. So, you can do all kinds of little things with padding as long as you kind of have an idea of what you're trying to achieve. One thing to note is that there's no good position for you to maintain all day long. So some people have stand-up desks, they stand all day long, but that's not really good for you either. And when you're sitting, if you're sitting in the same position all day long, that's not good. So if you have the ability to just change your position a little bit every once in a while, that's good. If you do something like have some sort of a trigger to get you to stand up or get you to change your position, a telephone call or making telephone calls or whenever people come in, anything that happens periodically during the day that you can use as a trigger to make yourself stand up. Even if as soon as you stand up you have to sit down again and use your computer, just do that process of standing up and sitting down. Anything to get your get your body moving from whatever position it's in. So let me talk about other devices. Let's talk about using a laptop. So I'm using a laptop here, but it's in a dock with with everything else here, so that I don't have to work with just the laptop. But a lot of people use a laptop just on a desktop, or they use it on their lap while they're watching TV. So either of those is not good, and there's really no good way to have a laptop and use only a laptop and have good posture. So either you're going to have the keyboard low enough, but the display is going to be too low, or you'll get the display up high enough, but the keyboard's too high. So there's really no good way to work with that. The only thing that you can do to modify it a little bit, and by the way, when I talk about keyboard and mouse really need to be at the same level. But if you have a laptop and you're only using a laptop, you can at least get the mouse at a good level. Like let's say you're on a couch, if you get like a little platform or a little, something that you can have to the right of you and use with the mouse, then at least the mouse arm will be at a good height instead of having it, up like this. The other thing you can do, I'm gonna show you a little pad I have. So I have this pad for my my e-reader, and you can also use this with the tablet or even with a cell phone. But if it's something that when you're working with a cell phone, you're almost always using it, with your hands, and so it's good to hold it up, and that will at least be better for your neck. But there's really no good way to use them without it being kind of bad for your body. So I would say just use those kinds of devices really briefly. And if you only have that device for mail or whatever, if you don't even have a computer and you only use a device like that, just be aware that you shouldn't be using it for very long periods of time, because there's no way to modify your posture and have it be good. So this is what I use for my e-reader, and I have this this other beanbag kind of thing to sit on my lap. This is still too low, So if you're going to do something like this, I would put books or magazines or something so that you can lift this up a little bit and have it at a good height. So, and with an e-reader, this is fine because all you have to do is swipe every once in a while. So it's a really good setup. So that's about it. If you have any comments, please leave them on the site. And please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope to see you soon. Bye.